Caledonian Elixir. Welcome to the Caledonian Elixir. This is a podcast that takes a tragic deep dive into the darkest recesses of the human condition. I'm your host Vincent, and today on the Elixir I'm going to provide you a sobering story of the biggest public health experiment in history. A story of an inescapable mainstay of daily life and communal culture that is destroying our health and our environment. This is the dark reality of man-made electromagnetic fields, electronic smartphones and 5G wireless technology. And this is the end of our natural world.
Sadly, smoking and cell phones have more in common than their popularity. They also share the fact that they each have an enormous threat to individual and public health. Dr. Joseph Mercola.
As the calendar has turned over to the 21st century, our lives have been saturated in man-made electromagnetic fields that damage our bodies, and in a sense we have all been forced into an unconsensual compromise between technology and natural health. So what are EMFs? Well, think of your television, your smartphone, your Alexa, your computer. All of these devices are powered by an invisible mix of electronic and magnetic energy, an energy that has become almost all-pervasive with the introduction of wireless technology, signals picked up by smartphones and Wi-Fi routers. Now, our ancestors did encounter electromagnetic radiation. This was from our bodies, the Earth's magnetic field, and of course, the sun. However, in addition to this natural radiation, we are now continually bathed in man-made electromagnetic radiation, and this man-made EMF didn't even exist until around 180 years ago. Now, the reason our EMF soaked existence is a call to action is our EMF exposure is now over 1 trillion times greater than our ancestors 180 years ago, and that's due to man-made EMFs. Now, that's brain-bending. Think of this, our bodies are not designed to be exposed to that, as it takes thousands of years for evolution to do its job, adapting humans to a changing environment. We haven't been given that time, but our modern world is served up to us as augmented with electronic virtual reality, and it has reduced us to the total dependency of addicts. However, with all addictions, there is a price to be paid.
It may be hard to convince ourselves that something we can't see, touch, taste or smell can hurt us so dreadfully. Yet just as we've learned a healthy fear of nuclear radiation, certain scientists, perhaps acting on a programme of deliberate disinformation, telling the public we still don't know whether electropollution is a threat to human health. That's simply not true. Dr. Robert Becker.
Electronic magnetic fields are categorised into two major groups, ionising and non-ionising. Ionising radiation can cause massive DNA damage, harming your mitochondria, protein, stem cells. And this is the reason why anytime you get an X-ray, you'll be given protective cover to shield the body from excessive X-ray ionising radiation. In other words, ionising radiation can have a powerful immediate effect on the body. And therein lies why it's confined to X-rays and CT scans. On the other hand, non-ionising radiation, which comes from mobile phones, wireless smart appliances, can also damage our bodies. Although it doesn't have enough energy to cause immediate harm, the limits of its destructiveness is no less due to its pervasiveness in culture. From what I understand, there are 3 reasons why our culture considers mobile phone wireless tech non-ionising safe. And the first reason, harmful effects don't always happen in a predictable logical sequence. it can take many years before you experience the symptoms. As a result, experience them you will. In the year 2000, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, a department of the World Health Organization, began a 10-year, 13-nation study that looked at the effects of radiation emitted by mobile cell phones. Importantly, its role in cancer. When the study was released, it concluded small mobile phone use had no increased risk of brain tumour. Sounds good. However, they found that heavy users of mobile phones had an 80% increased risk of life-threatening brain tumour, and that's after 10 years of heavy mobile phone use. But can you guess their definition of a heavy mobile phone user? How many hours a month do you think? 30? 40? It was around 2 to 3 hours a month. 3 hours a month was determined heavy phone use. So 3 hours a month of mobile phone use over 10 increased the risk of brain tumour by 80%. And that was a study by the division of the World Health Organization. Now, this was in the year 2000, and mobile phone use has only exploded in the 20 years or so since. But there's more. In 2011, the aforementioned IARC reviewed the study headed by Leonard Hardle, a leading professor of cancer epidemiology. The IARC examined new information regarding the effects of exposure to wireless mobile phone. Now, they also looked at microwaves, radios and TV signals, and the findings of this review were equally disturbing. But IARC concluded that mobile cell phone radiation is possibly carcinogenic to humans. This is not some cut-up study to give our random anecdotal evidence. This is the World Health Organization, and as of today, most of us are detached from the harmful effects of this technology. And I don't know, maybe it's got something to do with the glaring clarity of the warning put on mobile phone these days. And that's me being sarcastic. Now, the second reason I think our culture thinks non-ionising mobile phone use is safe is much related to the first one. It's a subtle way that non-ionising radiation damages our bodies. In the 1990s, Dr. Martin Powell discovered that EMF exposure increased calcium levels in the cells. One inordinate amount of calcium is inside the human blood cell. It eventually passes much into your mitochondria. When calcium enters your mitochondria, it eventually leads to premature death. But moreover, it causes a rise in free radicals in the body, such as peroxynitrate, which can damage your mitochondria, stem cells, DNA. In other words, it's bad pie. And remember, this non-ionised EMF is emitted by your smartphone. So, reason one why our culture considers it safe is time. Second reason is the complex manner in which it affects us. But the third reason our culture considers this technology safe is much more obvious. The third reason is mobile phone or the cigarettes of the 21st century. So many of us tend to forget how the tobacco industry adopted a policy of deep-seated deception over the population for decades. A position of silence and denial regarding the overwhelming of the health damage caused by smoking. A conspiracy involving the tobacco industry, legislators swayed by millions of dollars, and biased research enabled by the tobacco industry to receive fair treatment by the government while evading public scrutiny. And this went on for decades, leading to hundreds of millions of deaths. Who can forget Rod Serling's monologue before the start of every Twilight Zone episode, and always regaled us of the pleasure of smoking Pall Mall? Well, sadly, ironically, he died of lung cancer. Now, when you see the parallels between the tobacco industry and the wireless telecommunications industry, you will understand clearly why so many of us are unaware regarding man-made EMF health dangers. One way the wireless industry has achieved this is by capturing the federal communications industry, the FCC, by using money and influence to get industry insiders appointed to government agents, so much has been glossed over. Then there is, of course, good old-fashioned greed. In 2019, 51 US senators and their spouses are heavily invested in wireless telecom companies, so the damage to the name of these companies would definitely damage their financial portfolios. But as I'm saying this, their stocks are doing fine. In fact, they're going through the roof, and this is in part due to 5G.
If something can be connected, it will be connected in the 5G world. FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler.
Most of us who own a mobile phone have heard of 5G, fifth generation cell phone technology. It's rolling out almost everywhere, and as a result, we are going to experience an explosion in new antennas, with all these additional antennas being laid on the already existing EMF swamp we live in presently. These new EMFs have never been tested for long-term safety on humans. Therefore, all of us are participants in a global involuntary public health experiment, and the government will not protect you. Not just because we are complicit, but because 5G is an entirely new that uses a different part of the electromagnetic spectrum. The difference between 4G and 5G, the difference between a main mountain stream and a vast ocean. The reason for this is that 5G uses a millimetre wave. Now, these waves will enable more information to be transmitted in greater amounts at faster speeds. However, in order to do this, billions of new antennae be constructed. Now compare that to the existing 500,000 existing cell phone towers we have in the West. So billions of new antennas equals a massive increase in man-made EMF, and there will be no escape from it anywhere on the planet. As part of the deployment of 5G involves low orbit satellites that will blanket the entire Earth in a field of millimetre wave radiation that will be impossible to escape from this space-based RF radiation. It's already inundating Earth. In fact, as SpaceX and Boeing have now spun a web of satellites around the Earth. So, for a moment, think of this. Every human, animal, insect, plant, microbe will be blanketed in man-made EMF from space. And what makes it worse is that 5G millimetre wave is harmful, and our government understands this. In 1977, a Russian scientist called Zulybevskoya, sorry for my pronunciation there, Zulybevskoya published a paper on the health effects of millimetre radiation, the same radiation used 5G. And a little side note, this research wasn't available for decades as the CIA got their hands on it and classified it into declassification in 2012. But what this research revealed is animals were exposed for 15 minutes a day for 60 days with millimetre waves. It caused changes in their blood and bone marrow composition, reflex activity, tissue respiration, metabolism. It assisted their immune function, and it caused heart rate changes. Again, the CIA knew of this for 50 years. The intelligence officers and scientists together have been on a journey to the wildest corners of their imaginations in order to create cunning new weapons from this technology. In 1969, Dr. Robert Becker was contacted by the USA to review the side effects of a then secret project called Project Sanguine, in which the US Navy an extremely low frequency transmitter that produce an electronic magnetic field. These frequencies are close enough to the Earth's micropulsations, so human beings and animals are sensitive to them. Dr. Becker suggested that the US Navy shelf Project Sanguine immediately. Becker is quoted as saying, "The only thing sanguine about this project is the name." The essence of the danger sanguine posed to the public is that it would interfere with our natural biological cycle, creating a constant state of mild stress, impairing the immune system and reducing the strength of electrical impulses governing the contraction of the heart muscle. Becker even found that weak airlifts, such as that produced by televisions over a period of time, could affect the body. As I said, I don't think the US Navy and CIA approached this technology with a lingering disinterest. Rather, I think they have been using it in a brutal, obscene, sadistic fashion, turning stable individuals into unbalanced, confused victims. This is a conspiracy theory. Just read the US Air Force report on lethal weapons, terms and references. There are a number of acoustic weapons such as blast wave projectors, infrasound, which causes disorientation, headaches and even death when used long enough. And then there is Havana syndrome.
These electronic screens remove us from reality, capturing us in a subtle flow of organised and clever hallucinations. Alexander Duggan.
Havana syndrome is a cluster of debilitating symptoms that first affected US intel officers stationed in Havana, Cuba. Initially, these individual cases were dismissed as a result of stress. In the years that followed, specialists in intel, medical and scientific field have determined Havana syndrome as a result of a microwave weapon. The military personnel stationed in Cuba reported waking at night, hearing a loud piercing ringing in their ears. Headaches, light sensitivity, dizziness soon followed. Other related symptoms were anxiety, drowsiness and insomnia. The experts stated that the symptoms are akin to those experiencing brain injury, but the cause of these symptoms is believed to be the result of ultrasonic or microwave technology. Radio frequency energy through specialised bioweaponry could cause microbubbles in the fluid inside or in our ear, resulting in cell damage. The RF frequencies could also penetrate the skull, thereby disrupting electrical and chemical activity in the brain. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the US Air Force weapons, terms and references listed US military technology that induced similar effect. This may have played a part in the US government concluding that energy weapon was also used against hundreds of intel diplomatic personnel in Havana by foreign powers, as the US military had the same technology. To add to this, the same symptoms that are reported by the usage of non-ionizing art energy are identical to the symptoms experienced by those who have electrohypersensitivity disorder, visual snow syndrome, all of which are new conditions caused or made worse by mobile phones and electromagnetic energy. And if this sounds dry to you, that the deceptive, destructive, collusive nature of our government and the wireless industry isn't an assault on our collective health, but instead it's a form of sadomasochistic reverie on my part. If that's so, then fair enough, but the notion of a system based on technological control, nightmarish like misappropriation of power, has touched a raw nerve with many around the world, even before I was born.
It is not possible to make a lasting compromise between technology and freedom, because technology is by far the more powerful social force. Ted Kaczynski.
Fyodor Kaczynski, also known as a Unabomber, is an American domestic terrorist who moved to a remote cabin in 1971. The cabin lacked electricity and running water, and there he lived learning to survive whilst preparing a terror campaign that lasted several years. He was eventually discovered at his cabin in 1996. However, Kaczynski's acts towards industrial society and its technical advances weren't figments of a delusional, ignorant mind. Instead, Kaczynski was a mathematician with a PhD, and for a time he participated in the CIA's MK Ultra project. But his personal concern was the social and environmental evils caused by industrial society, and it pushed him into a hermit-like existence. To Kaczynski, no legislative reform could stop the harms of technology, and as long as the individual was part of a social collective, his freedom and his health was at peril.
Technology constitutes a powerful movement, and many scientists and technocrats gratify their need for power through identification with the movement. These scientists and technocrats march on blindly without regard to the welfare of the human race. Ted Kaczynski.
Kaczynski believed in two types of technology: small-scale technology and organisational technology. Small-scale technology is technology that can be used by individuals or groups without outside management or assistance. However, organisational technology shapes the social construct of society. Some examples of this is the automobile. After the automobile became publicly available, towns and cities were redesigned with motorised transport and city planning out based on this technology. A more recent example is the mobile phone. 25 years ago, it was a novelty item. Now everyone owns a mobile phone, which for all intents and purposes is also a computer, with our telecommunications now based on mobile wireless technology. So it is our sole system of organisational dependent technology that shapes our public existence and health. And one last thing, once a form of organisational technology is introduced, it cannot be stopped. It is never reversed. It can only be slowed until it becomes all-pervasive and eventually changes our life. In other words, we do have a symbiotic relationship with technology, but technology is in the driving seat. It has more power over us than we do it. Technology is now in control over humanity. 5G wireless telecommunications is just a new manifestation of this power that will enable technology to change our culture and biology. And just like Kaczynski, I believe it will never be stopped. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you learned something and enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later.